Hey, everybody. This is Tara with the sixth session of Vibe with the Tribe. And today it's been really, really special. We've had the guys of the tribe presenting, and I am so grateful to them for wanting to participate because it's all girly sometimes, and we just do what women do. And so today, earlier today, we had Doug talking about small business preparation and responses to COVID 19. And right now, we have Mr. Ashley Wallace, who has volunteered to talk about the IT side of responding to COVID 19. And I am going to let him take it away. Tell us who you are, what you do, and all of that.
Oh man, sorry, laughing at my wife. Hi everybody. Ashley Wallace. I am a premier field engineer with Microsoft. A couple of hats I hold or wear. I am a senior cloud architect. I also am an end-using compute engineer. I specialize in a technology called SCCM or Microsoft Endpoint Manager, as well as Intune. And that's it.
So, for us
Um,
non-technologically savvy people, can you kind of explain what Premier Field Engineer is and
oh,
what they
okay,
do?
yeah, you're right. So most corporations or large entities have support contracts with Microsoft, usually tied around some sort of technology like email or device management of some sort. If the on-site staff have issues or they need training or their technical skill set doesn't exactly match what's necessary for the product, they bring in a premier field engineer to come on site or offer remote chalk talks, trainings to empower the empower the admin staff to fully utilize the technology to the best of their ability and to increase the amount of profit that the business sees in that relationship with Microsoft. So,
Okay. And for you, I know that you do a lot of traveling to customers to do on-site work. How has COVID-19 changed that for you?
I was actually in California when one of the earlier cases of COVID hit LAX, and since then it has been full stop traveling. I have my workload has tripled. I have been on calls 4 to 5 hours a day for every week, if not multiple days in the week since the work from home orders. I have tons of customers whose entire workforce have had to shift home. I've helped implement solutions to help lessen the strain against VPN environments, allowed for cloud access to resources. So it's crazy. We are seeing a lot of environments that are actually breaking their infrastructure because they never planned for this, not at all. Um, it's funny. There's a joke running around on the on LinkedIn, and in IT there is a movement called digital transformation, and it usually talks about how companies adopt newer technologies, mentalities, mindsets to increase productivity in the business. And usually your CEO or your chief executive officer, chief technology officer, chief operations officer are the individuals that drive those types of initiatives. And there is a poll, and it's like, okay, who in your business has driven your digital transformation? And the answer has been COVID-19. So it's been very drastic.
So you have customers that you support regularly. Have
Yes.
any of them um, had extreme difficulty shifting to individuals working from home? Are they? Are the other thing that we've heard on the news is that people are losing jobs and things of that nature. Have you had any experiences with that, with individuals laid off, companies shutting down, things of that nature?
Yeah, I've had a couple of support contracts bottom out because they have lost all their funding. I work with um, I can't say it. I work with a company who has a very large foothold in the leisure travel industry who reported having to dock all of their resources for a couple of months, and they have lost, I think they count $13.5 million a day.
Wow.
The ship maintenance, they're not prepared for days and weeks at a time. Um, One of their remote offices completely shut down. They lost their lease on the building. And it's kind of funny because the way businesses are having to shift their financial mindsets and their supportability, it's like I run through these scenarios where I help companies understand where their single point of failure is. And even in their worst scenario, nobody ever even imagined the type of losses that just not being able to work and come into your office can have. A company that I support in Kansas City is throwing fines at people for coming into the office, and they reach up to $10,000 a pop.
Wow. So company wise, business wise, you feel it seems like you've got a pretty good handle on supporting your customers, making sure they get what they need, responding to questions, helping them troubleshoot things. What do you notice locally as far as um, internet use, lagging, things of that nature? Do you feel like, and you may have some insight into this, we have several companies here that offer internet service. Do you think they were prepared for a complete shutdown and individuals working from home and things of that nature, the setting up, the home internet usage,
No,
data
not at
usage,
all.
all of that?
Not at all. For example, us. Even I have a nice little setup downstairs. Tara's office is upstairs. I'm downstairs. All the man cave equipment's lined up, and we experienced an increase in internet utilization when I got my 4K television because I upgraded Netflix, got the 4K stuff. So that means I started downloading more stuff as I watched movies all the time. Um, Internet companies are seeing caps in their distribution lists and areas because now you are having 3, 4, 5, 6 times the consumption per household per area. And our speed has actually been reduced because Cox is trying to implement caps on the system so that there is not a total overwhelming of the system. Um, we were 2.5 times our internet utilization last month, and we hit 2.5 terabytes. So
And that's
that
because you've
means
got the three different
that's be
people.
3 different people, line of sight for business with me, my support, my data going to them. It's just it's overwhelming for them. And I supported another company whose entire VPN infrastructure went down. So nobody that was working remotely could access because they just simply did not have the licenses. Nobody foresaw needing to buy an additional 15,000 licenses because most companies only expect 2 to 3, maybe 5,000 individuals working remotely at any given time, not the entire workforce.
So, and I don't know if this question makes sense, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is it possible for us to break the internet in Topeka because
Yes,
of the usage?
yes.
And what would that look like if it were to happen?
So you have a couple of, so maybe not the entirety of the internet in Topeka, but you can severely strain one internet service provider. So what happens is you have like Google Fiber that came into Kansas City. They essentially have these buildings that support fiber drops, which are optical cable that will transmit data via light that hit these brocade buildings, which then break that signal out to different areas. And essentially, it's capped, and it's almost like water pressure in a house. You know, how you have your big line of water, you have a breakout that goes to the bathroom, the kitchen. Now, not only is all the water being turned on in all the houses, but now we're springing leaks in the pipes to begin with. So we may not be able to completely break the internet, but we can make the ISPs sweat and struggle a little bit.
So, as an IT professional, what is one thing that you wish people, customers that you work with, people in Topeka who are the families that are struggling and their internet's lagging and people are getting kicked off? What is one thing you wished they could do to alleviate some of that?
Um, there's really not much that they can do, with the stay-at-home orders and school being canceled. There's really no definitive way to ensure, service continuity. We have to do what we have to do. But the one thing that I do wish people would take more seriously now that they're having to work from home is the essence of security. Um, I 20 cases last week where large companies were compromised because bad actors are now taking advantage of this COVID situation. They're sending emails, spoofing attempts, malicious malware and hackware, and it's crippling not only their systems, but those systems transmit data back to the corporate environment, and it just completely takes it down. Um, I've been on the phone for at least 10 hours ever since Saturday because I'm literally helping a company in Pittsburgh, Kansas, completely rebuild their infrastructure because they had everything taken out because one person that was VPN'd in at home opened up a malicious email talking about COVID tax things.
So, what do you say to the companies, I don't know what the chief information officer,
CIO, CTO.
what do you say to them? What message do you say to them to spread out among their employees who are working from home? What should they be looking for? What should they automatically raise a red flag for? What things can protect that company?
Um, from an IT perspective and admins supporting their end users, security is top notch. Pay attention to things like odd emails coming into your inbox. If your environment or your admin is pushing down an update or sending you reboot requests because you need to install patches, go ahead and do it. We're never too busy to reboot, and 9 times out of 10, it's a purposeful cause because we need to install software or we need to apply some fix to mitigate another issue. Be careful where you connect. If you do happen to have to travel somewhere and you connect to a open VPN network like at McDonald's or Starbucks or something, your company will give you something called a VPN token or a VPN app. Connect to it. Make sure that any traffic that you're sending, whether it be personal or corporate in that sense, in that particular environment, is encrypted and taken care of. Just be aware and try to use common sense. It's not important for you to respond to a COVID tax preparation at your work email. That should be a red flag, and it's better to be safe than sorry in this event.
So, what do you recommend that not necessarily business people or individuals working from home, but your average person who has a personal computer at home and isn't working? What would you recommend that they look out for?
Oh, kind of the same things. Be aware of, just any off the wall emails that you might receive. Be careful and be cautious of any links that you click. A really good habit is to hover over the link. If you happen to open an email and there's a link for google.com, if you hover over the link, a little balloon will pop up and actually tell you where that link is pointing you to. Um, what was it, the couple of weeks ago, I got a spoof text message talking about my Netflix account. Again, just pure common sense. If we're watching Netflix and I get an account message, it's probably not real, but don't investigate any further. If you can identify as it a spoof, send it to spam or just delete it. I know a lot of us are curious, but the end game isn't worth it.
Absolutely. So, what have you done to shore up the infrastructure that we have here? What have you done? Have you made any changes to make sure that we can all at least do the basic amount of work or
Oh yeah,
coursework
I've
or
I've hidden our wireless networks to make it a little bit more secure. I've toughened the key that's needed to access that network. I've throttled some of my equipment down here to give priority to you and the boys because I can always do my stuff late at night. Your meetings, actually, your PC in this environment takes precedence over the internet, so it's good. Tavian's come second, and then my 10 or 12 devices come last. So I reboot the router and the access point regularly because as more traffic accumulates, the device just needs a refresh. I've turned up our firewall pretty securely. Because of the work I do, I actually get paid attention to by bad actors. And so I'm constantly getting pinged by devices in China and Korea. So to prevent that, turning up the firewall, making us invisible to the internet while we can still get out and do what we need to do.
Absolutely. So is there anything, you mentioned something about you doing your work later. For the individuals who have students, multiple students in the house, and they don't have a lot of data, would it help them to stagger the usage of, if you have a student that has to get on at 9 o'clock, you have a student that has to get on at 3 o'clock, you have a student that has to get on at 4 o'clock, does it help to stagger that when they're not on their video? Because a lot of students have to do the video school. Does it help to stagger their usage around those times? That way it's faster, if you will, for the individuals that have to get into the Zoom class.
That's a good suggestion, but I would only do it if you see an issue. Now we have seen Microsoft has seen reports of Zoom utilization amongst a single network kind of peaking the resources because Zoom itself sends video in an uncompressed high definition format. So multiple entities doing that at the same time on one internet connection can slow things down. But really something like that, just do it if you have to. So like if you're on a class and the boy's on a class and I have to do something and it's lagging, then maybe the next day just follow the advice that you gave and that should resolve it.
Okay,
But
so
if you're talking about Zoom, make sure you patch it.
that was my next question about Zoom, and it looks like Debbie's got a question about Zoom. Do you want to I'm unmuting her. I think I unmuted her. Did you unmute yourself?
I did.
There she goes.
My question was not about Zoom, but you had mentioned earlier that you reboot your router frequently. Is that a recommendation? Because I do know, like here, sometimes we experience that lag, and of course, no one wants to reset the router because they don't want to wait for it to come back up. But how often would you suggest a family to reboot their router to, keep up?
I would say once a week is probably good enough. My situation, I have to do it every other day, and it's simple enough for me to do because the service provider that we have has an app on her phone, which I can just log in, open it up, and hit reset, and I can actually watch it come back up. So once a week should be fine just for the average household.
Okay.
Awesome. I had a question and I totally don't remember what it Zoom and passwords. So one thing I noticed is that after we heard the news reports of individuals jumping into Zoom meetings and being inappropriate, Zoom created passwords. Even this meeting, you go into the meeting, and which is interesting because I have done one of these before last week and someone logged in without the password.
Yes, actually, I logged in without the password too.
Exactly. And so my question is that something we need to be aware of? Because I just heard that on the news, again, that earlier this week, someone had a Zoom meeting going and people were still able to get in. So short of using another platform, not Zoom, what else can people do?
Yeah, it kind of falls into the etiquette of having a virtual meeting. If you set up conditions like passwords or lobby only invites, it's usually best to join the meeting 5 to 10 minutes beforehand to ensure that everything is fine. So in situations like that, if you host a meeting and I'm able to join without the password, things that I do, if I join early and I see someone pop in, I'll ask them how the experience was, and if it wasn't what I expected, I'll ask them to disconnect while I check the settings on the meeting, and then I ask them to reconnect in an email or a a text message or something like that. This also helps with needing to prepare hardware and headsets. Um, a lot of the times, if you connect to a Zoom meeting, a WebEx meeting, a Teams meeting, and your hardware, like your headset or whatever you're using to communicate, isn't ready, the platform will automatically use the audio associated with your computer. And if you connect it after the fact, it has to flip and give it a couple of seconds before it syncs up. So usually just logging in, making sure all the conditions are set before the majority of your attendees get there is best.
So I've attended some meetings where weather was a factor, and I'm wondering if the combination of so many people saturating the service in a given area plus the weather kind of makes it harder for you to have whatever kind of meeting that you're trying to have.
Yeah, that's common. Weather can affect multiple services coming into a corporate environment or even the house, and a lot of the times, um, with inclement weather in a specific area, maybe the ISPs are shifting resources to emergency response units and throttling everybody else. So yeah, things like weather and inclement patterns of whatever can definitely affect how the performance of a meeting will seem to you and the rest of the participants.
So this is a question that I asked earlier when I spoke with Doug, and he wasn't prepared for it in that it wasn't something he considered.
Okay.
My question to him was, what are you going to do differently in your environment when all of your employees come back to work? Are you going to have the sanitizing stations, wipes, and all of those things? How do you think that's going to affect your job once you get back to work and start traveling and all of that?
I think it will be a serious consideration for the enterprises that I support when it comes to sanitary measures and having hand wipes. I know a lot of the times I pass through high security areas and it becomes a matter of, hey, let me check your bag, let me check your personal device. I kind of think activities like that now will be accompanied by people wearing gloves. Hey, keep your distance. I'm good. I don't need to pat you down. Just proceed through the metal detector and whatnot. I think given what we're forced to take into consideration and the repercussions if we don't nowadays, I think social distancing will have to be enforced in the corporate life, especially with what I do. Knowing that a lot of the times local administrators of companies have to transport equipment. Now they'll probably be tasked with wiping down the equipment. Um, I would be surprised if I saw a dirty keyboard ever again, to be quite honest with you, with, the keyboard being the last thing that anybody ever considers to clean on a device to probably now being the first thing that people want to wipe down. So
Is that going to change things for you? Do you think that you'll be that person that carries around your own personal wipes and
no,
is
I not necessarily saying I'm like super duper duper sanitary, but I think the one thing that I will have to take into consideration is other people's attempt to make that an important factor for them. So maybe keeping my distance if I'm talking within a group, or not necessarily be as willing to extend for a handshake. Maybe waiting for them to determine their comfort level and then engaging in that capacity. So just having to be aware that I shouldn't stand so close to people. Me being 6'4" and probably intimidating now, I just look like a pile of germs to people.
So do you think that you would like purchase your own keyboard and carry that around just as a habit, or are you feeling like you would be okay with, you know, people doing the things that they need to do to sanitize
Oh,
workstations?
I think not only would I be okay with it, I think I would just probably be more inclined to wash my hands. So.
Okay. So is there anything else that you want to share with the people that are going to be watching this later on? I'm pretty sure there are questions that I have that will probably come up later, and I'll just post them.
That she'll ask me later, and we'll just record
And
them again.
I'll just post them in comments so people can have those questions answered, because usually people will send me questions, and I think it's so late in the day and people are like tired of Zooming. This is
Sure,
my
I know you are. I
7th
am.
Zoom today. So
That's
yeah.
funny. Um, I think for me, you know, just maintain your what's the term? What do you use? Um, Maintain your level of self care. I'm used to working from home. I've been doing it for like 6 years. I'm a recluse in some cases. I don't like leaving the house if I don't have to, but I can understand how the shift in dynamic can be very destructive for people. And all you see now are guides on LinkedIn and Facebook talking about how to maintain your mental health and everything. I think first and foremost, forget your job, make sure that you are okay mentally, make sure that you are okay with the relationships at home, and then worry about the job and the responsibilities of it. Because if you carry that strain into your business as usual activities, you're just going to be as productive as a rock. So, you know, um, reboot, update, and secure those networks.
Awesome. So one last question for you. It just occurred to me, since you are always in front of monitors all
Mhm.
day, what does your self-care look like?
I think for me, and it's funny, I knew you were going to do that. I forget self care for myself a lot. And I'll have people who will make comments, hey, you do this all day. What do you do to relax? And for me, it's I stay in front of the computer and I might geek out in the lab, or I might build a solution or script or something. And even though that's something I consider my self care, I even have to rip myself away from that sometimes and just take a nap or watch a movie. That's getting pretty fun with you. Um, and then, you know, just take the time to separate. I have to learn to take the time to separate from myself from what I consider business elements and my monitors. So,
Awesome. Great. That was relatively painless. I told you it would be.
yep.
So thank you so much. Next week on Vibe with the Tribe, we have moms who are talking about their children adjusting to online learning, dealing with missing out on graduations and other opportunities that usually take place at this time, prom, things of that nature. So I don't have a date yet because moms are being moms right now. And so we will get a flyer going on that and hope that people can join us and ask questions. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to email them to me or message me on Facebook. I will be happy to share them and we'll actually post them with the comments to this video. So if you have any questions for Ashley about IT stuff or any of the other tribe members who have done presentations, Nurse Debbie's here and her presentation is going to be posted as well. So if you have any questions or concerns, as things have changed significantly since she did her presentation, feel free to ask those questions. I'm sure she would be happy to answer them. And with that, we are done with our sixth session. I lost track. I believe it is our
6.
sixth session of Vibe with the Tribe featuring the guys of the tribe today. I'm so proud of them for jumping in here and saying, sure, I'll do it. So
Woo!
there you go. Well, Doug wasn't that exciting, but he was by himself. So yeah. So thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
And let me pause my recording.